This is quite a fairly recent one. I'd say the last sort of 12 months or so. And that's that well-being shouldn't be measured in schools. And that's a massive topic, but that's definitely something we'll probably touch on it today. That's something that I've really changed my mind about.
Without going into too much detail, why? Why shouldn't it be measured in schools?
So for a long time, I thought well-being was almost this kind of like not intuitive, sort of more subjective, sort of more you feel it kind of thing, and that putting a metric on it was just another form of professional pressure, and it wasn't productive and this sort of stuff. But actually, I've very much, the more I've learned, the more I've been going into schools and working with staff in schools, I've realized that we have to have, absolutely doesn't need to be pressurized, but we have to have some sort of measuring stick. And we have to have, in the nicest possible way, some sort of system to see that we are improving well-being for our staff, that we are seeing changes. And it doesn't mean tons of paperwork, tons of time, tons of effort even, but we need some sort of system to measure that change.
And I'm sure we will get into that today when we have a conversation. One thing that you're going to stop doing in 2026, and if you say early morning podcast interviews with random Australians, they'll be devastated.
No, we'll keep those coming. Something I've been working on, and I worked on it towards the end of my teaching career, but obviously life is very, very different now, 6 and a bit years on. Something I'm working on a lot at the moment is not confusing my personal worth with my work and separating those two, and knowing that I don't need to be busy to be meaningful or purposeful, and that rest is really, really positive. And it's something that I talk about a lot. But as always, life goes in cycles, doesn't it? And rhythms. And you reach these points where you have to relearn lessons and reapply lessons and things like that. So yeah, definitely not confusing my work with my worth. And part of that is probably saying no to more things so that I can put personal things ahead of professional things sometimes.
I think that's hugely important, Charlie, and I'm sure we will unpack it, because so much of your identity, or our identity as educators, is wrapped up in what we do. And I'd be really interested in hearing at some point about that transition, about what that looked like to redefine who you were outside of somebody that was in the classroom, still very involved in education and making a difference. But I'd be fascinated in that process, because I know a lot of people that really struggle with that, especially as they move towards retirement or changes of seasons in their life. But yeah, I'm sure we will touch on that. But I would love to return to that year 6 classroom moment. And so you write about when your body forced you to stop. Tell me a little bit about that, and why weren't you kind of ready to hear it at that time?
This could be an hour conversation itself, I think.
Yeah.
It was
Take us back
a little bit of background, little bit of context. Essentially, I had, almost sounds very cliche, I appreciate, but it's almost like a penny drop moment. It basically, everything came to a head, essentially. So I was teaching year 6 at the time. It was my first year teaching year 6. So you're talking your kind of 10, 11-year-olds, end of primary here. And there was a lot going on for me personally that I hadn't even acknowledged.